Okay, we're live. All right, guys, we're testing right now. Live stream Tampa. And we're going to do some audio checks, some video checks. And there we go. Looks good.
Move, because winning never gets old.
Blue Emu Pain Relief Products non-greasy, deep penetrating formula gets down deep into your muscles and joints to do its magic.
And speaking of magic,
Blue Emu, maximum pain relief.
hi, I'm Rusty Wallace.
And I'm Johnny Bench.
Hi, I'm Rusty Wallace.
And I'm Johnny Bench.
And we're no strangers to big-time pain.
Which is why we trust Blue Emu's Pain Relief Products.
I use it every day to keep me on the move, because winning never gets old.
Blue Emu Pain Relief Products non-greasy, deep penetrating formula gets down deep into your muscles and joints to do its magic.
And speaking of magic,
Blue Emu, maximum pain relief, the official pain relief cream of NASCAR.
We are stronger together in the warm air and Gulf breezes, by the sparkling water as the sun slowly sets, where pirates shout ahoy and treasure awaits, where gentle manatees swim past timeless minarets, with adventures to discover in historic districts, with diversity and charm, in our community by the bay, to make memories beyond measure when you return, because we are all stronger together, where hope always shines in the hip urban heart of Florida's Gulf Coast beats. We will be ready for you in Tampa Bay, Florida's most resilient destination.
At Medi Weight Loss, your health and wellness is our top priority. We're now offering virtual tools to help keep you safe and on track with your weight loss goals. Focus on your health and lose weight with our individualized medical plans. Call for a free virtual assessment. Medi Weight Loss.
Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Live Streaming Tampa Bay. I'm your host, Tyler Martinovich, Film Commissioner for Hillsborough County, and it's a particularly great Friday. As some of you may have heard, St. Petersburg opened up their permitting process for film and digital media this past Monday, and we're happy to announce that today we can join them, and we will also be open for business starting tomorrow, which is a great news for our local production crews, certainly for our agencies as well. For our first segment today, we're lucky enough to be joined by Ryan Lau. Ryan's from Energy Hill. Hey, Ryan, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, Tyler?
I'm doing great, man. Happy Friday. First question I ask all my guests, how have you weathered the storm, or are you doing pretty good? Everyone's happy and healthy?
Well, actually, we've weathered the storm quite well. As an agency, we actually hired in March, which was pretty amazing. It's been, some of our partners and clients, everyone's gun shy right now, but it's understandable. I don't think we're ever going to go through something I hope we're never going to go through something like this again. But overall, it's been great. We've had a month of changing gears and working from home collectively, which was a little bit frantic but unplanned for, but also it kind of also changed our perspective on how we do what we do and how we have the flexibility. And in a sense, we're lucky that way.
Yeah. So. And speaking of that flexibility, I think if one thing this period of quarantine or safer at home has taught a lot of us is that the necessity to go into an office space, while a luxury in some cases, isn't necessarily needed. And I think people are realizing more and more just the importance and the value of both their interactions online, but also the value of e-commerce. Can you talk a little bit about your strategies going forward, what you're talking with clients about, and how they're adjusting to the new norm?
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, for clients, it's one thing. For internal, it's, hey, it is sometimes great to have that face to face. Hey, we need to talk out this plan, this strategy, because it can be hard virtually. So there's some things that we still like that nonverbal you can't get.
Yeah.
Even in teaching, I know that we work a lot with the education sector, and it's hard to have that nonverbal communication, whether it's with students or faculty or professors. It can be a little bit jarring. It's like, are they getting it? Is it clicking? Is the light bulb going off?
Sure.
So in some ways, I think there's still a need, and I think in the future, especially in the next couple of years, as companies innovate, there's going to be a hybrid that happens where it will be, yes, a lot of virtual. However, that nonverbal can still be missed. Like right now, I mean, we're doing this and this is fantastic, but you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely, I do.
It's kind of hard. So I think that is going to be something that, e-commerce is definitely a route I think companies should have planned. And when it comes to service-based companies, if they're teaching a class, they should have already been online. If they're not, let's go. And there's still time. I think the companies that they had reserves, they had a plan in place, are the ones that are going to come out way ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Some of the tech schools we work with, to be honest, they were already doing, and this is K-12, they were already doing a lot of stuff online. So they were able to hit the ground running. Colleges and universities the same. But some of the technology and construction companies and some of the companies we work with, it was a jarring shift. However, it's still not too late to kind of say, hey, let's switch our strategy from, our traditional marketing strategy to a digital priority strategy. And so that's kind of what we've been helping our partners do and go forward with.
Yeah, let's stick with education for a second. Some of our viewers might not know, but in addition to being a film commissioner for Hillsborough County, I'm also a professor at the University of Tampa. And it has been an interesting transition, even though a lot of colleges or certificate-based programs had an online component. Whether or not an individual professor was actively taking advantage of that is sort of hit or miss, depending on the institution and individual professors. What did you find during this transition? How was the learning curve, not necessarily their infrastructure to be able to do that, but getting everyone up to the same speed and level and proficiency of being able to use online functionality?
Yeah, I think it was difficult for some of it came naturally. I think, the term, you're a technologist. I think everyone has to be now. There's no more excuses to be, I don't know how to go live. I don't know how to post on my social. And I feel for some people that they just hate technology. They're jinxed whenever they get near a computer, things start going crazy. But with that said, I would say go in head first. What's great about this time is people who aren't comfortable with technology, this is the perfect time to go head first, because there's going to be people around you that are going to help you learn and get up to speed. So I think that's kind of the nature of where things are going. I'm scared though, to be honest, because I see my 10-year-old and she goes to Imagine and up in the Land O'Lakes area. And literally she had to get on a Zoom meeting with her class. And she's like, and I had a meeting at the office and I was driving in and she's like, I'll just get on my phone. And I'm like, that kind of like took me back. It's like, wow. I mean, how crazy is it that she's 10 years old, 5th grade, and she's already logging into Zoom. Yeah. So I just want to encourage those that are afraid of technology, don't be. This is the time now to just jump in and literally reach out to, I know a lot of our amazing agencies in the Tampa Bay area, we're all about helping and educating. So I think at Chambers of Commerce, we're a part of the North Tampa Chamber of Commerce. We're going to be doing things that are going to help businesses that they have that fear, because there shouldn't be a fear. Technology can really help you do things faster and do things more efficiently. And in education, I think that, there are a lot of resources. Every school, St. Pete College, Hillsborough. I mean, there's so many amazing schools in the Tampa Bay area, UT. They all have resources available. It does mean, though, reaching out. Yeah. But I'm going to take it a step further. There's also retail that's going to be opening up. The Apple Store. I mean, there's so many ways in which you can just ask and say, hey, listen, I'm behind. I missed the latest iPhone. I don't understand FaceTime. Yeah. Can you help me? And everyone, for the most part, are going to be very helpful. And if you find someone you can click with, say, hey, do you mind coaching me? I think, one of my principles in life is always to have a mentor or a coach that I can ask, hey, I don't understand this principle in business or in, thing you're teaching. Can you help me? Can you go alongside me? I think that's be cognizant of looking for those mentors and coaches.
We can tackle this a little bit more broadly to bring in retailers and whoever else that might be needing to interact now from home or has the last couple of weeks, not just education. But there is this idea of a technology desert where in your social economic, class where you fit on that, you may or may not have as much access as someone else might. How prepared, in your opinion, were companies to be able to distribute technology if people didn't have that at home? Perhaps in the educational system, how many students, actually had the laptops and the ability to take advantage? I mean, what should people have been doing, and what can they do in the future to sort of insulate themselves a little more?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, and I feel for the students, especially in the K-12 section, but also, colleges that literally their college or their school was their place, not just for technology, but for meals.
Yeah.
That just, breaks my heart. And, we're fortunate in where we're at in the Pasco area that we didn't have to deal with that. But I know there's schools out west and in some of the urban population that, man, those kids were going to school. That was their 2 meals a day that they were, all about.
Absolutely.
So that gut wrenches me. And I think as a society, we really need to start addressing that. Wait a second, there's students that have to get back to school because that was their life. And it's not just technology. I think technology, we need to, absolutely bring it to the forefront. But I think as a community, national community, we really need to kind of say, hey, what can we do to help make it where, kids shouldn't be hungry in America. Come on, it's time now. But with technology, I think what's cool about technology is it can help us communicate quickly and bridge those gaps where there's gaps. But I do think it does come down to our state and local governments that have to lead the charge and, and direct and guide and budget for and make it happen. But especially for education. I think to me, that's, I have a heart for education, having kids, but it's still something that, come on, it has to be done now. I think Florida, we're fortunate. We're in a state where I don't think it's as common, but I know that there's some urban areas where that kids are looking, for outlet for socialization and getting to know their friends, but also food. So that's where we need to address that. That's something that needs to be addressed in a couple years.
Ryan, these 10 minutes go by so quickly. We really appreciate you taking some time. Before we let you go, though, where can people learn more about Energy Hill or yourself? Any social media you'd like to plug?
Absolutely, so you can find us on energyhill.com. Pretty easy. Also on LinkedIn. I'm pretty avid on LinkedIn. I need to do better, but it just comes down to scheduling and time. But feel free to follow us. And that's it. We're a local agency in the Land O'Lakes area, so north of Tampa. Our heart is Tampa. I've lived in the Tampa Bay area about 16 years now. So, but we did move up north a little bit, and bought a home and started having kids. So that's how our life began. But it is a husband and wife team out in Lakeland. energyhill.com. Thanks so much, Tyler.
Wonderful.
We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan, for joining us this Friday, and stay happy, healthy, and we're looking forward to being open and getting back to business.
Love it.
Appreciate it.
Tyler. Talk
Thank
to
you.
Bye-bye.
And for everyone watching at home, stay tuned. We're going to cut to a quick break and be back in a few minutes. And many more.
It's easy to feel powerless when we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But if we pause for a moment and let our eyes adjust, we can discover beauty hiding within the darkness. We find new ways to bring hope, to celebrate, and to connect. We discover that the tools we already have can solve novel challenges. We reimagine how we serve our community and protect our most vulnerable. We learn new meanings to the phrase daily bread and face to face and hero. We find the simplest ways to brighten the darkest days. And we discover that the light we're looking for was never at the end of the tunnel. That light, in fact, comes from each of us. So for as long as it takes us to reach the other side, keep looking for the light, because it's always there, just 6 short feet away.
Welcome back, everybody. Again, my name is Tyler Martinovich, Film Commissioner for Hillsborough County. This segment, we're lucky enough to be joined by Pat Montega from Tampa's own trilingual newspaper, La Gazzetta. Hey, Pat, how's it going?
I'm great. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty good today. In fact, really good, because we were just able to announce that Tampa's back open for business for film and digital media, which is a huge boon to our production community. First question I've been asking all of our guests: how have you been doing the last couple of weeks? Is everyone happy and healthy?
All family's good and all the employees are good. So we never closed down. Some of our people work from home, but we still had to get together a couple times a week. And so my life's been probably less adjusted than many others. I got nothing to complain about.
Yeah, great to hear. Pat, if I can put you on the spot as not only speaking on behalf of La Gazzetta, but as perhaps an ambassador of Ybor City. We just did an economic impact study for the last 2 months of what the film and digital media sector lost in Tampa. And we estimate we lost about 60 or so projects and about $5 million in economic impact. And that's just from commercials that would have been shooting normally. What has this crisis done to the Ybor community? I mean, do you think people were greatly affected by it? Have most people been able to weather the storm? What's your opinion?
Well, since Ybor's an entertainment community, a lot of it has, restaurants, lounges, bars, event centers like the Cuban Club, the Italian Club. I think it had a tremendous negative impact on it. It just had a negative impact on the feel of Ybor.
Yeah.
We've been all fighting to make it a place that's alive, and it just seemed dead for quite a few months, for a couple months. And it's had a negative turn down there for a lot of architects, engineers, people like that. Business wasn't necessarily impacted very much, but I think it's like rebuilt. But I do think that a few businesses aren't going to come back.
Yeah, and I think that's an unfortunate reality in a lot of places, not just in Ybor City. So, we've got messaging today that the state of Florida is going into a full phase 1 reopening on Monday, and we've been in a slow roll leading up to that. And it sounds like we might be in phase 2 as early as June 1st. Again, just sort of taking the temperature of Ybor City. Do you think most are ready to reopen, or do you still think there's some hesitation or worry about spreading, coronavirus, particularly in bars and restaurants? What's your feeling?
Well, first of all, I want to give an add a girl to the mayor. Opening up by closing down 7th Avenue really allowed some restaurants to kind of roll out and have a chance at making $1 and not losing at 25% occupancy. And I think that those few businesses that came out kind of woke the other businesses up that, yeah, let's go ahead and try. And so I think by closing the streets, you've got a lot of people, businesses that are ready to roll. They've been practicing their startups. They've been handling business. And so I think that Ybor's ready to go. But, you know, a lot of days when I go out there, it doesn't look like the community's quite ready to come out and let their hair down a little bit and have dinner. Last night I was walking down 7th Avenue. I went to go to Bernini's, and every table was full, and I could not get a place to sit. So I went somewhere else, and so that's fine. But then a little bit later, you look down, and then there's nobody at any of the restaurants, and so it's hit or miss. I think that the restaurants will open up as quickly as the patrons will come out to give them their business.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I do appreciate you giving a shout out to Mayor Castor. You know, for those that might be watching that aren't from Tampa, you know, we took an extraordinary step of closing down some very normally busy streets to allow for some additional transition from the front of a business where they could have like a cafe style setup to allow for business to get back on their feet. If I'm not mistaken, I think we were one of the first in Florida to do that, and now you're seeing a lot of other cities copy that.
Right, and you know, and besides just closing down the street, they really relaxed across the board. You know, you have liquor being served on tables at the street without requiring a rezoning. You've got the city doing everything it can to say yes, which normally the city does everything it can to say no.
I know that.
No business, you know, a lot of times when you want to close something down, it's like, no, don't do that, don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, they really have just tried to say yes on everything. You know, that's a tougher thing. It's easy to close down the street. It's tough to make every department learn how to say yes.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate that. And hopefully it's a new learning thing, a new learning curve, and make it easier for people to film on the street, to be able to shoot commercials. Hopefully the city finds out it's nice and easy to say yes, and the world doesn't go crazy if you do.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about journalism for a second here. We have a mutual friend, Paul Guzzo, and I was talking to him about the difficulty of finding some diversity in stories so it wasn't just all doom and gloom, COVID for the last 2 months. What have you been trying to focus on as a newspaper as far as tracking down stories and finding content that the consumer actually wants to read?
Well, I write a lot about politics, and while all of this COVID is going on, there were still campaigns running. There were still people out there announcing for office and people retiring from office. So, you know, we continue to try and report about that. And as a weekly, it's really hard to try and keep up sometimes with the COVID stuff, you know, what's closing, what's not. So a lot of times we just tried to poke a little bit deeper, tried to find some angles that people hadn't been reporting. And so I really didn't find a lack of material out there. And then, of course, we have President Donald Trump. So there's always that fountain of information that can, you know, come out for you all the time. So you know, it hasn't been too bad. And like I said, we have the luxury of being a weekly of not really having the necessity or the responsibility of having to give you the daily coronavirus news that the Times and the TV stations did. So ours is probably a little less gloom and doom than theirs.
Yeah. No, I imagine so. Let's turn back to Ybor again. You're closely associated with the Cuban club, but certainly the social clubs, the Italian club, Ivy Storiano. Looking out at the future of how we're going to rebook events in these traditional event spaces, what sort of precautions are you seeing being taken to ensure that there's some safety and an ability to rebook some of these events that might have canceled because of COVID?
Well, I think that we're going to have to kind of get some of our people who want to do some parties at the Cuban Club to rethink it. You know, or we'll probably go down in capacity, try and encourage them to, even if we're looking at doing probably, you know, the first concert, so maybe we can pocket people in smaller groups so that they're all not together.
Yeah.
Give a little bit of separation. Maybe what you do is maybe the first few kinds of concerts you do, small concerts are where you do maybe tables of 10. And you separate everybody and you do table service. which would be a little bit different. Maybe when you start to look back and trying to do this electronic dance music EDM, I don't know, maybe we'll hand out glow in the dark masks to everybody on the way in. So, there's really not an answer, but there is the effort to think creatively, to try and see what we can do to get people to be responsible. We've got some events that want to start up that may be like Tiger Bay that might start up without an audience.
Yeah.
Or a very limited audience. And then we work our way through, because these places like the Cuban Club, you can treat it like a restaurant, you can treat it like a bar, you can treat it like an event center, you can treat it like a concert hall. It all depends on what we're ready to. And so, I don't know what a wedding looks like. I assume we're going to have to figure it out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But since you have a lot of pockets of families, maybe it is, just a less dense wedding and maybe a bigger dance floor.
This might be too early to ask this question, but have you seen a lot of interest in booking events a little later into the summer yet, or still people kind of cautious?
Yeah, I've had people come and meet with me to say what we're willing to do. And we're willing to do whatever the city and the state will allow us to do.
Sure.
So we're not reluctant to try. We just have to understand what the plan is, and then be able to talk it over with the officials to see if the plan will work. So I think there's people who want to try to do something like a concert in July.
Yeah.
Don't know what that looks like. Don't know how creative we're going to have to be with it. Don't know if we're going to have to do mandatory masks. But that's I've got people talking about booking as early as July for some events, and so we'll see what that happens.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Ebor's no spring chicken, or maybe I should say spring rooster. It's weathered a lot in its history. What do you want people to know about the resiliency of Ybor, and what sort of marketing pitch would you give to people that bring them back to Ybor to experience the restaurants, the shops, everything else?
Well, what makes Ybor attractive is the fact that it works for every different phase. The building's closeness, their size, the rhythm of the streets, the pattern of the streets. It works whether it's an arts district, it works whether it's an entertainment district, it works whether it's a district or a place to live. And so it was a great urban design 100 years ago. And because it was a great urban design, it's still good today. And so, the bones are good of Ybor. As it adjusts, as it changes, if we just keep the good bones there, it's going to feel good no matter what it is. When you talk about, the challenges of the day, the Cuban Club opened in 1917. In 1918, the top floor of this beautiful ballroom was used for victims of the Spanish influenza.
Yeah.
The whole thing was filled with sick people. And so, we roll with the punches around here.
These segments go so quickly, Pat. We got to wrap things up here. Where can people learn more about I'll give you a chance to plug both the Cuban Club, but also La Gaceta. Where can they learn more?
We can go to La Gaceta's website, lagaceta.newspaper.com. The Cuban Club is cubanclubtampa.com. We sell subscriptions for as little as $35 a year. We can mail you the paper. We wear masks and gloves when we're labeling it for you to make sure we're not spreading disease. And the Cuban Club's a great place to visit, whether you're visiting us because you think it's haunted or whether you want to have your next wedding or your next event there, give us a call.
Yeah. Well, I highly endorse La Gaceta, the Cuban Club, and just Ybor in general. Everyone should take advantage of all three of those. Pat, thank you so much for joining us on our Friday. Stay healthy and happy. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. And for everyone watching at home, stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes. Thanks, Pat.
I don't know.
We're back! Today we're gonna make 3 types of ribs in a 3-part video. First episode, salt and pepper ribs. First we're going to need some ribs, duh. Make sure you give it a good wash to get rid of any old blood and bone fragments. Next we are going to soak the ribs in some Chinese wine? Wait, can I have some wine?
The alcohol burns once you cook it.
Oh. Prep time! Onions! Make sure you peel the first layer off before you start chopping. Garlic. Jalapenos. I dare you to eat one, Cloud.
You get 100 likes, I'll take a bite of one.
Alright, bet. These are the main dry ingredients we will use. Salt, pepper, brown sugar, and then add a bit of spicy bacon mix. Using a deep pan or wok, pour a generous amount of oil for deep frying. We recommend using canola, vegetable, or corn oil. Please be very careful. Our deep fry station is outside of the house, and my dad is a trained professional. Time. If your ribs are not completely under the oil, use a ladle and pour some on the areas, or you can cut the ribs into a size that you fit. Once the ribs is golden brown, take it out of the oil. Place it on a resting rack and lightly season it immediately. Now for the toppings. Cook the garlic and sweat the jalapenos and onions.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Tyler Martinovich, Film Commissioner for Hillsborough County. And as I mentioned in a previous segment, we're lucky enough to be able to say today that we are back to business. Tampa Bay is open for permitting, which is great news because we're also joined with St. Pete Clearwater that opened their doors on Monday of this week, making the Bay Area really the go-to place right now to film in Florida. And we're very lucky to be able to say that. Joining us now for this segment, we're lucky enough to have Tim Moore from Diamond View. Hey, Tim, how's it going, bud?
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. And I don't know if it's played yet, but it will play some point during today's broadcast. We're lucky enough to have a brand new We're Open for Business commercial that you and your team put together for us that we're so thankful for. What does it feel like to know that you can film again now in Tampa?
Well, it's a refreshing feeling to be back at it. I know that our team loves nothing more than to be out in the field and get to shoot every day. So this is an exciting time.
Yeah. I mentioned in an earlier segment, we did a quick economic impact study of what we lost as a community over the last 2 months. And only speaking for the film sector, we estimate about 60 productions were unable to film between March and April at a loss of about $5 million. We need to get back to work as a community. Do you see us having a productive and busy summer?
I think so. I mean, I know when all this happened, the economy was roaring, and there was definitely a bull market going on. So I think that, you know, a lot of people have taken a hit but are ready to get back to business. And I think that companies are ready to advertise, and then films are ready to be made. So, you know, where there's that kind of demand, I think it's going to put a lot of people back to work. And from what I'm seeing in the industry, you know, a lot of things got postponed, not canceled.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that that can come back sooner than later, and we start to see that all across the board.
As a company that shoots not just in Florida, but all over the place, I can be somewhat insulated just because I'm so focused in Hillsborough County. Are there a lot of other opportunities to film right now? Have you heard from places like Atlanta? Are they allowing people to film right now?
Well, you know, Atlanta opened up a lot of their businesses earlier than most states. And so I think there's a lot of activity going on right now. But I don't think anyone's been as aggressive as Florida of telling the world that, hey, we're ready, we're open, not only for the film and video industry, but they were pretty open about being here for sports. And as you know, a lot of our clients are sports clients. Yeah. And so it's refreshing to hear that, hey, while other places might be shut down, Florida's going to be open for that as well.
Got it. And we actually have your clip just about queued up here. I believe it's your evolution of storytelling clip. Can you cue it up for us? Ready to go? Okay, we're going to cut to the clip real quick. We'll be back in a second.
Okay.
I can't do this anymore.
And cut.
Stories. For centuries we've told them, but how we hear them is ever changing. From the campfire to the radio to the television and now to the screens in our pockets, we've shifted from pausing and listening to sharing stories on the go. But the stories themselves have always served the same purpose: to captivate and entertain, to inspire. And we need inspiration, now more than ever. And stories need to be told. So whoever you are, wherever you are, gather round.
And welcome back. Once again, I'm with Tim Moore from Diamond View. You just watched a couple of their clips. I believe it was the evolution of storytelling demo reel, if you will, that we played. Tim, talk a little bit about the evolution of storytelling and how you are approaching the next couple of months when you're talking to clients about getting their vision out there and how to reconnect with their audiences or their consumers.
Yeah, well, I think storytelling is more important now than it's ever been before. We've seen, especially with the stay-at-home orders, that the amount of attention and supply of attention is now more than ever. So how do brands capture that and effectively tell their story in a meaningful way? I think that's really the evolution we're seeing is, you know, the TV used to be the main way we talk to people, but now people have 5-inch TV screens in their pocket that they carry around, the smartphones that they're on social media every day. And so I think the commercial world has made a change to really focusing on things like digital marketing and social media. And I see that industry is, even with the disruption that COVID-19 has created, is still emerging and flourishing despite that.
Yeah, and you know, looking at sports as a potential subsector, and I know that's something that you guys specialize in. And we're looking at MLB. I think there's some announcements today. They're trying to get some games up and running pretty quickly here with no audiences. How are you addressing the marketing to get people excited for sports again when they might not be able to experience it the way they had in the past?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. That's something that our team's huddling around right now. And I think another question to ask is, what are you marketing? Because most of revenue for sports teams are through ticket sales. And so you got to think about it. You're not asking people to come to stadiums anymore. You're asking them to tune in. And so, with every disruption becomes an opportunity. And what we think is, in the same way that XFL had brought the Skyline camera to NFL, there might be some opportunities with no fans in the stadium to increase the production in a way that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
And so that's something that we're looking into as an opportunity. And we feel like, it's gonna be a little bit different energy without 40,000 screaming fans. But man, what's a way that we can change this for good and make the TV experience that much better?
Yeah, really great points. I hadn't really thought about just not having to worry about blocking the view of audiences, what kind of tech you could bring in there on the field. That's a really interesting point. Talking with your own staff and the people you work with, your freelancers, what are you doing to make them comfortable to come back and work on a set?
Well, we're taking heed of the guidelines that Film Florida put out. I think they did a really good job thinking through all the necessary things to make people feel comfortable and safe. And so, that's really what we're following, and the industry standards. I mean, I think you're seeing now a lot of remote directing, a lot of things that we had never seen before. That in this kind of time we're in are very important. So. That's really what we're doing, is following the lead of the industry.
Yeah, and perhaps you'll take a personal question. We're coming into summer months. I know you have kids, and they've been home this entire time. You've been turned into Professor Dad in addition to everything else. But we're moving into when normally it would be summer vacation. What kind of plans do you have to do with your family to keep them entertained over the summer?
Well, we were going on a cruise to Alaska, but I think that's going to be postponed. And so, we're just going to enjoy what the Bay Area has to offer. But what's exciting about a time like this is a lot of people are stuck in places that you might not want to be stuck at. But to be stuck in Tampa Bay with the beach right here and all the amenities we have, it's not a bad place to be deserted. So we'll take advantage of those local amenities.
Yeah. And going real back to something you said earlier, that a lot of the business that, I shouldn't have said lost over the last 2 months, they've either pushed or postponed, but they haven't necessarily canceled. Have you seen a lot of clients come back and say, hey, now's the right time to execute on those plans that we had previously thought of doing in March or April?
Yeah, I think now as we're getting a little more certainty, we're definitely seeing people come at least back to the planning stage. We haven't kicked off a ton of those productions that were canceled, but we've definitely got back to the drawing board and said, all right, let's put some dates on the calendar and see where we go from there.
Yeah. And not to ask any specifics as far as bidding goes, but are you going through the process of adding in extra costs, and this is just advice to other production companies, to account for either slower work days because of having to socially distance, PPE, whatever it might be, to get people comfortable going back on set? Are you putting that into your budgets and your bidding, and are clients understanding of those extra costs?
We haven't really factored in any additional costs. We feel like it's going to be business as normal. Certainly on our end, we're going to have some more safety protocols, and we'll cover the cost on those. But as far as our plans are moving forward, it's we're going to pick up where we left off.
Yeah. We'll close the segment. Tim, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Where can people learn more about Diamond View?
Sure. If you go to our website, it's diamondview.io. You can check out some of our work on there. And again, headquartered here in Tampa Bay, Florida. We'd love it here. And thanks, Tyler, for having me a part of the program.
I appreciate it, Tim. And once again, thank you so much for doing that spot for us. You're an amazing ambassador for Tampa Bay. We really appreciate you. Have a great and healthy weekend, bud. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Tim. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And for those watching at home, stay tuned. We'll be right back in a few minutes.
And many more. It's easy to feel powerless when we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But if we pause for a moment and let our eyes adjust, we can discover beauty hiding within the darkness. We find new ways to bring hope, to celebrate, and to connect. We discover that the tools we already have can solve novel challenges. We reimagine how we serve our community and protect our most vulnerable. We learn new meanings to the phrase daily bread and face to face and hero. We find the simplest ways to brighten the darkest days. And we discover that the light we're looking for was never at the end of the tunnel. That light, in fact, comes from each of us. So for as long as it takes us to reach the other side, keep looking for the light, because it's always there, just 6 short feet away.
At Medi Weight Loss, your wellness is our top priority. There's no better time to focus on your health than now. That's why we are open and we're here to help you. Our providers and staff are taking all the necessary precautions and following sanitation guidelines so you can feel confident coming in to see us. And if you're staying at home, we're also offering virtual appointments and curbside pickup. Get your individualized medical plan today at Medi Weight Loss.
I won't ask you how you're feeling.
Mood is good. I just
All right.
didn't sleep well.
Welcome back, everybody. Once again, my name is Tyler Martinovich, Film Commissioner for Hillsborough County, and we are joined once again by Kristen Euchre. How are you, Chris?
Hey, everybody. Hi. Me again.
It's our favorite segment.
A live stream regular.
It's our accounting segment. So let's talk some accounting real quick. We were talking just a minute offline about expenses that you would normally deduct as a loss from a business standpoint. But if you're taking advantage of some of the programs going on right now, how does that affect what you are claiming as a loss?
Well, typically when you are, paying your rent, paying your utilities, paying your bills, those are typically deductible expenses, either as expenses or cost of goods sold, depending on the type of business that you're operating. But a lot of the loan specifics are that if you're using these loans to pay these expenses, they're no longer deductible to you. And there's a bit of a fight going back and forth between business owners and the government and the banks as to whether or not these expenses will be deductible in the future. Right now, if you're using the loan to pay expenses, they're not deductible. And in some cases, that actually makes perfectly good sense because you're financing something. And when you're financing something, it becomes a balance sheet liability instead of a profit and loss expense. So if you are receiving a PPP loan and you are using those proceeds for anything other than payroll, be aware that you may not be able to deduct those expenses as you may on your normal tax return at the end of the year. There will probably be some more guidance on that in the future. And then again, if you are using a PPP loan, be sure and document what you are doing with those proceeds. With my clients, I have separate balance sheet accounts. I actually have taken the money out of the bank and moved it to a balance sheet account and allocated it back in so that when it's time for the forgiveness, we've got full documentation of exactly how we spent that money. And everybody needs to be doing that because you should be applying for forgiveness on these loans within 8 weeks of receiving them.
Yeah.
So good accounting, make sure you're crossing your T's and dotting your
Yeah,
I's.
you literally just asked you answered my next question. It was like, should we put this money aside in different pots to show where we were spending it? And the answer is yes.
I had really made the suggestion several weeks ago that if you're receiving a PPP loan, that you should establish a separate bank account for it. So you're literally not commingling those funds. But none of my clients have actually done that. Now I can't say that we've gotten massive loans either. But what I've done is in my accounting, I've taken the loan money out of the balance, out of the bank balance, and put it into an asset account. And then when we run payroll, I just put it back in. And I just keep reminding my business owners, pretend it's not there. Yeah. Don't look at it like that. It's not.
I don't want to get.
But I really thought that everybody should have a separate bank account for that. But
no, it was good advice. It seems like common sense, but perhaps not. I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but I think there's some confusion out there from people I talk to about what the calculus is going into how much of the PPP you're ultimately provided once you apply. What are the determining factors in how much you are eligible for?
Well, if you do have a payroll, what they're looking for is the qualified monthly payroll cost. And in your accounting software or through your payroll provider, you should be able to have a pretty good idea of what your monthly payroll cost is, which is your salaries and wages, as well as your employer matching taxes. And if you offer a 401k, if you're offering medical benefits, HSAs, those things can be included in compensation. Most loans are being made for exactly 2 months worth of salaries, wages, and matching. And really, I have not seen a penny more. They have been specific down to the dollar amounts.
Yeah.
So, and the way that it's been working with some of my clients who do have the PPP loans, it's literally exactly matching our payroll costs. Once we have exhausted those PPP funds, we can consider using the tax credits to offset any payroll costs. That's done on a Form 7200 where you can reduce your payroll deposits by your qualified payroll costs. It's a little more complex, does require a lot of documentation, and you will be audited.
Yeah.
But I have run the 7200 form on 2 of my clients prior to them receiving a loan. Can't do anything with tax credits while we're in the loan. Once we have exhausted the loan and done forgiveness, we can go back to looking at payroll tax credits if that needs to happen. But it's not a free-for-all because what you're doing is you're essentially deferring those payroll taxes. So they will eventually come due.
Yeah.
So you don't want to think, oh, I'm just not going to have to pay all these payroll taxes. Oh, you will, just not today.
Yeah.
So
no, good
we'll
point.
talk more. Maybe we'll talk more about that next time.
Hey, there's always a bright side to tuning back in next week. For companies that took advantage of the PPP, and the whole idea was to keep employees working, right?
Yes.
If they told the government, hypothetically, that this was what the payroll was last month when I'm applying, but then I go ahead and reduce everyone's wages, do they have to pay the employee what their previous reporting was, or can they deduct, if they reduce the wages or they deduct matching for something? I mean, what was I know it was intended, but what is the reality? I mean, what can they get away with?
Well, you're supposed to be maintaining your payroll as your payroll was reported for loan purposes. What has happened in several cases with several businesses is that they did not receive a loan on the first round, and maybe they haven't received a loan on the second round, and people have been laid off, and those people are now collecting unemployment, and they're not on payroll, and so now you've got a payroll loan and no payroll.
Yeah.
So you either have to bring your people back in, which if you're not able to run your business, doesn't make any sense. In which case you can either return those loan proceeds within the 8-week window, or you can use it for mortgage and utilities, which becomes a loan that you cannot forgive. So, that's been kind of a catch-22 with people not getting the money fast enough to keep their payroll, and then getting the money, but not being able to do business and not needing to have anybody. So
I literally ran into that with my own business. We had to let people go, but it was the time we actually got cleared, we'd already let our staff go. There's just no way
so
around
you
that.
either return the money or you use it to pay those expenses, and it becomes that non-forgivable loan.
So not to beat PPP into the ground, but are you seeing checks moving right now? I mean, is everyone still getting money, or is it just dried up?
I have seen, of all the clients that I assisted with payroll loans, not everybody got one. A few people did. They were very small amounts, very specific dollar amounts, exactly tailored to that payroll. With other companies, I don't know why they haven't gotten loans. I don't know if it's a function of the bank they're dealing with. I do know that some people who applied directly through the SBA never got any response at all.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that people who had the best luck with the PPP funds were people who were working with small banks, community banks, very personal relationships. I know Wells Fargo had some issues because they had banking, big bank issues a couple of years ago, and they had some restrictions on what they were going to be able to do. And even now they're being investigated for the loan practices. So, I don't think anybody else is really going to see anything right now. It seems to me that most of those funds are dried up and gone.
Yeah.
There is legislation moving through to keep money flowing, but it's not passed yet. So at this point, I would say it's kind of a wait and see. If you do have an application in and you haven't gotten any communication, reach out to your banker. Try another application with another bank or another lender.
Yeah.
But, I have a feeling it's pretty well allocated by this point.
I suspected you were going to say that, which is unfortunate, but that's the reality. Kristen, these segments go really quick. We are running out of time. Is there any other last tips or tricks or anything you want to say before we close out?
Well, I still am getting some questions about where's my stimulus check. The deadline to arrange for a direct deposit using that tool was Wednesday at noon. So if you were unable to provide any banking information or get that tool to work as of Wednesday at noon, you can't get a direct deposit. You can still get a check in the mail. They're not done sending out the checks yet. So you do want to make sure that you can at least get your address. If your address is wrong, enter everything exactly as it was on your 2018 or 2019 tax return. And be aware that the only reason that they can take your stimulus check is child support.
Oh,
so if you owe back taxes, if you owe student loans, things that you can normally lose a tax refund for, the stimulus check only goes for child support. So if you do owe child support, you might not get a stimulus check.
Right.
And if you don't get one at all, and you were supposed to get one, we'll look at that tax credit on next year's tax return. Kind of a bummer to have to wait till next year to get it, but in some cases that may be what has to happen.
Well, there it is. And as we close out the segment real quick, if people do want you to look at their taxes next year, where can they find more about you?
You can find me on Twitter at 71Kristinator. Twitter is my favorite place to be. I'm also at LinkedIn.Kristen.Junker. And I do have a Facebook page. It's Banausic, BANAUSIC, big blue logo. And you can also email me at dbabanausic@gmail.com.
All right, fabulous. Kristen, have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy yourself, and I'm sure we'll talk to you next week. So thanks, Kristen. Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend, guys. See ya.
Yep, stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Rusty Wallace.
And I'm Johnny Bench.
And we're no strangers to big time pain.
Which is why we trust Blue Emu's pain relief products.
I use it every day to keep me on the move because winning never gets old.
Blue Emu pain relief products, non-greasy, deep penetrating formula gets down deep into your muscles and joints to do its magic.
And speaking of magic,
Blue Emu, maximum pain relief, the official pain relief cream of NASCAR.
We are stronger together in the warm air and Gulf breezes, by the sparkling water as the sun slowly sets, where pirates shout ahoy and treasure awaits, where gentle manatees swim past timeless minarets, with adventures to discover in historic districts, with diversity and charm, in our community by the bay, to make memories beyond measure when you return, because we are all stronger together, where hope always shines in the hip urban heart of Florida's Gulf Coast beats. We will be ready for you in Tampa Bay, Florida's most resilient destination.
At Medi Weight Loss, your health and wellness is our top priority. We're now offering virtual tools to help keep you safe and on track with your weight loss goals. Focus on your health and lose weight with our individualized medical plans. Call for a free virtual assessment. Medi Weight Loss.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tyler Martinovich, Film Commissioner for Hillsborough County. And we're joined this segment by Ben Helfand from Helfand Holdings. Hey, Ben, happy Friday.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing. I thank you for joining us. I appreciate it on a Friday. Rather than butchering your background, because you do a variety of things, not only are you an investor, but you're also an author. Give us a quick soundbite, if you will, of just your background.
That's an interesting question. It's a question I've always sort of struggled with myself trying to answer at a cocktail party or meeting somebody asking me what I do. And I guess I've summed it up with trying to do as much as possible without doing anything at all, or trying to make as much time as possible. I think that's my goal in life, and that's time to spend with my family or to take a trip because that's where I found my happiness is.
Yeah, and speaking of doing as little as possible, I think that's a lot of us right now, whether it's forced or otherwise. Right. But some of us might be looking at our balance sheets and saying, I gotta make a move here. I gotta do something. And with your background in investment, we'll preface this by saying this is just advice. Please consult your own financial advisor. What are some considerations and areas people should be looking at if they're thinking of jumping into investment?
Well, right now, I mean, I run the gamut from early stage VC investing to growth rounds, to real estate, to restaurants. So I'm invested in many areas. Right now, personally, what I am doing is I'm sitting on the sidelines, and I'm not trying to catch a falling knife, somebody once told me, or trying to catch the bottom or the right opportunity. What I like to see is the consumer confidence number, and to me, and I hate to be a Debbie Downer here, but opening up the country is one thing, but the majority and the big growth in our economy or the rebound is going to happen when consumers feel confident to spend money, and whether it's a restaurant at 25% or 100%, if I don't feel comfortable that I can take my family there and be safe, regardless of whether it's open or not, I'm not going to go. And when 2/3 of our economy is driven by consumer confidence, we have to make sure that consumers feel confident to go out and spend.
Yeah, I think a lot of the lay people, they look to where the stock market's at for confidence. Yep. Do you think the stock market is detached from the at-home economy?
Yeah, I think the stock market is sort of based right now on what investors think the economy will look like in a quote unquote normal world. I look at the example of DraftKings, which I'm closely tied to because I'm an investor in FanDuel. But DraftKings went public during this pandemic, and they increased their stock price, and they've been on the rise ever since. The only thing is their stock, their revenue is driven off of sports, which obviously there are no sports. So to me, I mean, just from common sense, how is that stock going up when they have no revenue?
Yeah.
And to me, just that investors are looking at it, says, okay, well, this is a good company when things are quote unquote normal. And to me, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I find this weird disconnect where people keep pointing to how well the stock market's doing, but then I ask them, well, how are you personally doing? And I'm doing terrible.
Right.
You know, and it's just that weird cognitive disconnect.
Right.
Let's talk about some not necessarily happier things, but maybe something different. You wrote a book, and if I could paraphrase it, of an amicable divorce. I'll let you explain the book here. But there are people right now who are either going through a divorce, having to be stuck at home in an unamicable situation, perhaps, or they are splitting custody with children, and they're no longer able to bounce the children back and forth between the various homes. And I think you might have some interesting insight into that. So first, explain a little bit about what the book is, and then we'll get into those questions.
Well, yeah, the book is called Our Happy Divorce, and is co-authored with my ex-wife. And the basis of the book is how our divorce brought us closer together. And it's a journey. 13 years ago, we got divorced, and we decided to simply just put our child first. And the result was far beyond what we could possibly have imagined 13 years ago. We're best friends. We live 7 houses apart from each other. We share custody of our son. So it's a great, happy divorce. And I think under these circumstances, family law, family court is sort of closed for the most part. I guess it's reopening now, but except for emergency injunctions. So as not a lawyer, not a therapist, just somebody who's been able to co-parent and do it in a healthy way with our child is about communication. And there are some circumstances, and I just wanted to preface it, and I think I could say this pretty safe. It's never okay just to break your custody agreement because you think that your ex isn't doing something, right? It's like if your water's leaking, you just don't, you can't just not pay rent to your landlord to hold it hostage. So unfortunately, some parents are doing that and holding their kids hostage. So I would recommend against that. But I think it just comes down to communication. And yes, you have a custody agreement, but under these extraordinary circumstances, that might need to be adjusted, and there might be some sacrifice. But what worked for me and my ex, and what works today, is a communication, a compromise, and putting our son and his health, his well-being first, because he had nothing to do. It wasn't his choice for us to get divorced, so we should never burden our kids with the consequences of our decisions.
Yeah. And in a case of joint custody and circumstances like this, how do you even communicate? Obviously, mileage will vary depending on how old your child is, but how do you even communicate the idea of needing to socially distance to your children and explain to them why you might not be able to go to mom or dad's house this weekend?
It is a tough, whether you're divorced and the child lives in 2 different houses, or you together, and kids have a hard time around whether, I have a 4-year-old and a 16-year-old. And the conversation is a little bit different, but overarching, like, what's going on? Why can't I go out with my friends? Why can't I go to school? And, what we try to do is communicate with our kids about, obviously the 16-year-old gets a little bit more of the meat on the bones about, being responsible. But yeah, I think it's, what we try to do, if, for example, our son with my ex goes to his mom's house during the day for school. Even when it's my day, because what's best for him is not to have to study in a house with 2 young, crazy kids who love their brother, who will never leave him alone.
Yeah.
Although it's quote unquote my time, it makes most sense for him and what's best for him that he goes to his mom's to study during the day and then comes back to my house.
That's incredibly mature. I don't know if everyone has the same sensibilities, but we certainly appreciate the advice.
I mean, when it all comes down to it, it might be mature, but what it comes down to is just being a parent.
Yeah, and we're coming into summer months, and I think a lot of people had a transition into being, professor mom, professor dad over the last couple of weeks. But now we're moving into the traditional summer season when kids are looking forward to camp or going on vacation, doing things. What would you normally be doing during the summer with your kids, and how are you adjusting to still give them some space and some fun? Even though we are reopening, it's still going to be a little dicey over the next couple of months.
Yeah, so we have a little recreational vehicle named Cletus, and it's an RV, and we take it across the country every summer for about 6 weeks. We're not doing it this year for obvious reasons, but unfortunately, we're going to have to come up with something different. And my family's taken the approach, and we've communicated with my ex-wife, so there are some similarities and standards at both houses are the same. That we're just going to wait and see what happens, over the next couple weeks, and see with this reopening what's going to happen with the virus, and then we'll make a plan. But I think luckily we live in a great country that we can hop in the car and be somewhere, or hop in the RV and be somewhere in a couple hours. It's different, and for kids, I think that's all that matters. Is it's just something different, fun, being with family.
Yeah, no, great advice, and let's hope, cross fingers, that we can all get back to some form of normalcy sooner rather than later. As we're closing out the segment, Ben, let's go ahead and pitch your book one more time. If you give the title and where people can purchase it at.
Yeah, it's called Our Happy Divorce. You can go to ourhappydivorce.com. We have blog, we have resources on there, and Our Happy Divorce, everything on social media. And if you're going through a divorce, or you're thinking about getting a divorce, it's so important to hear a story like my ex's and mine, or somebody. There are a lot of people out there who have good outcomes because it's possible. Yeah, it's possible that if me and my ex-wife can do it, if you knew us personally, type A personalities, hard-headed, then we're pretty much convinced that it could work for anybody.
Yeah, it's great. Ben, thank you so much for joining us for a brief segment here on a Friday. I appreciate your time. Have a happy, healthy weekend and a rest of your summer. Really appreciate it, Ben.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Very grateful and honored to be asked to be on.
Thank you. And for everyone watching at home, stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes. Thanks. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it, bud.
Wallace. And I'm Johnny Bench.
And we're no strangers to big time pain.
Which is why we trust Blue Emu's pain relief products.
I use it every day to keep me on the move because winning never gets old.
Blue Emu pain relief products, non-greasy, deep penetrating formula gets down deep into your muscles and joints to do its magic.
And speaking of magic,
Blue Emu, maximum pain relief, the official pain relief cream of NASCAR.
We are stronger together in the warm air and Gulf breezes, by the sparkling water as the sun slowly sets, where pirates shout ahoy and treasure awaits, where gentle manatees swim past timeless minarets, with adventures to discover in historic districts, with diversity and charm, in our community by the bay, to make memories beyond measure when you return, because we are all stronger together, where hope always shines in the hip urban heart of Florida's Gulf Coast beats. We will be ready for you in Tampa Bay, Florida's most resilient destination.
At Medi Weight Loss, your health and wellness is our top priority. We're now offering virtual tools to help keep you safe and on track with your weight loss goals. Focus on your health and lose weight with our individualized medical plans. Call for a free virtual assessment. Medi Weight Loss.
Welcome back, everybody. Once again, my name is Tyler Martinovich, Film Commissioner for Hillsborough County, and you're watching Live Stream Tampa Bay. Thank you guys for tuning in. We have another segment right now where we're joined by Hal Bowers. Hey, Hal, how's it going? Happy Friday.
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. So the first question I've been asking everybody, just how are you doing personally? We're reopening. It seems like things are going a little better. How are you and your family?
We're doing okay. Surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, at the very beginning of this month, all of a sudden there seemed to be a big uptick in work where things had been dead before. So it feels like things are starting to come back online again.
Yeah, we're experiencing the same thing here, and we'll get to that in a second. But before we do, give us a quick background or synopsis of who you are.
Sure. So I'm a design professional. I've been in the business for 30 years. I've done everything from print to interactive. I've been as far back as touch screens and CD-ROMs. For the last 13 years, I've been focused on advertising, particularly in the retail space. And now I'm trying to take that expertise and bring it to local markets. So people that are looking to take their bars or their restaurants or their small retail shops online, like I'm there to try to help facilitate making that happen, which is kind of fortunate timing in some ways.
Yeah, to be sure. With this crisis, I think everyone's had to transition one form or another, whether they wanted to or not, into a more of an online presence. Especially restaurants who all of a sudden had to throw up a web page that didn't have one before just so people could interact and order online. That's the case. What do you think the biggest learning curve is for a client, no matter what sector of the industry they might be coming from, in transitioning for the first time into more of a solid online presence?
I think really the thing to do is the toughest part is to really analyze where you have gaps, I think, in your business process flows, and figure out where online can really help. Even in one case, I just did a job for a lawyer's office. They've been using paper forms to sign up new clients for years and years and years. And it was a very simple thing just to take that and convert it into an interactive PDF for them so they could mail it out, email it out to their future clients, have them fill it out and send it back. That's a huge boon for them. And that was really not a difficult thing to do. So for companies that are looking to transition into digital, I find the low-hanging fruit for you.
Yeah.
For restaurants, obviously it's online ordering. They're like that's going to be crucial, which can be tough because you got to, if you can, you want to be able to integrate it into your point of sale system. But there's a ton of systems out there that are available to do that. So the good thing is no one has to invent this. Almost everything that you need is out there. It's just a matter of sitting down and figuring it out for yourself or getting somebody to help you do it.
Yeah. I think we're spending more time than we ever have online, particularly on other people's websites, trying to navigate e-commerce or even just ordering food from a restaurant's website. And you really start to pay attention to the usability of a website. Speaking of design, it's not just the aesthetics, but what's the workflow? How are people interacting with that space? What are some of the biggest taboos or no-nos that you consistently see amongst people's websites that they should not be doing?
One thing that I see a lot is people tend to set up their websites the way that they think about their business rather than the way that their customer thinks of their business. And that's a real easy trap to fall into. Even as far as product categorization, we did jobs for huge retailers. And the customers wouldn't. One of the reasons we got where we were is because we would actually kind of put things into categories that made sense to the customer, where they were stuck in their own ways thinking about how those things were categorized, and the shoppers couldn't find them. So really, try to get out of your own mindset and try to picture yourself as a new customer and think about the way that they would look at your product or your business. So that's really the best tip that I can give.
Yeah. And maybe perhaps a more aesthetic side of the design. Obviously, everyone has their own brand, particularly if they're a company. But let's say I'm a business where my clients normally interact on a face-to-face level in a brick and mortar style store. How important is to carry that branding, that color scheme, whatever it might be that's found in the brick and mortar store, and then transition that online so it almost feels like a seamless brand transition from one space to the other?
Oh, that's huge. I mean, honestly, it really is. You don't want someone to get lost. I mean, it's very easy to get confused about where you are on the net. And certainly there are a lot of copycat sites and things like that. So I'd say for anybody trying to carry brand through, it's really going to make the difference. What you want is that level of comfortability when someone's coming to your site. They don't want to feel like they clicked on the wrong thing. So if you have a giant disconnect between your store on the inside and your store online, it's like it's just going to throw people off. And trust me, you don't want to throw anybody off. You just want to make that funnel as smooth as possible.
You mentioned you've had an uptick in calls, and I think that's true for a lot of people that are working either in design or production or whatever it might be over the last just couple of days, if not the last week. Obviously, you're not Nostradamus, but if you were to pull out your crystal ball, do you think a lot of companies who might not have thought seriously about moving into the online space are now going to rush to sort of future-proof themselves in case we're back in a situation like this?
Yeah, I think they have to. I mean, not only a lot of people probably just fell behind. I think everybody kind of knew in the back of their head, wow, we should really, really invest a little time to be online. This kind of gave everybody the kick in the pants to do it. It's kind of the same thing when our industry went through the transition from, desktop sites to mobile sites. And there were people that were very reluctant to focus on mobile. And if you did that, you missed the boat, and then you ended up having to go around the backside and try to play catch up. So yeah, I think people have started to figure out, online is part of who you are, whether you're brick and mortar or not. Everybody is online. That's the first place it's going. I mean, it'd be like saying 40 years ago, if you didn't have a Yellow Pages ad, how in the world will people find you?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. This is the modern era. It's like everybody is online, grandparents, kids, the whole age range. So being online at this point is incredibly critical.
Yeah. And just to give you a chance to advocate for your own job in your own industry, in a world where there's things like Wix, where, Bob from IT can jump on and pull something together, what is still the value in hiring a actual designer, a professional to pull off whatever their web space is?
Yeah, sure. For people that can afford it, I think having someone who's not you be able to take a good, hard, critical look at things and try to give some order and some flow and some hierarchy to what you're doing is what's important. Design for me is not pretty pictures. It's not cool looking stuff. It's problem solving. So when someone comes to you and says like, oh, I want to do a website, it's like our job is to try to analyze who your customer is, what you're trying to sell, how you sell it. And we boil all that down into something that makes sense for the customer based on your business needs. And that's really the value that we add is that thought process. Yeah, hopefully it looks great. Surprisingly, I've been in industries where the thing that looked terrible sold more than the thing that looked good. So looks isn't necessarily everything. Whatever your customer responds to is what's important. So, I feel it's our job, I think we have a line of separation between the business owner and, as a third party, it's like, I think we can see a little bit clearer, perhaps, what the customer is looking for.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're just too close to it as an owner.
I think you're right. I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier about how you categorize things in a website. You might be doing things internally one way, but it doesn't necessarily connect with how a user would experience that space.
Absolutely.
We're coming down to the end of the segment. These things go pretty quick. Tell us a little bit more how people get a hold of you, where can they learn more about you, and where can they take advantage of your services?
Sure. So you can reach me at jordanbowers.com. You can email, I think it's inquiries@jordanbowers.com. I'm available, give me a call. We're really trying to focus right now on websites, of course, but also apps. I've been working on some stuff for restaurants and bars to try to increase revenue. And of course, that all hit right as this started to happen. So we had to shift some gears. But as people are going to start getting out again, I think that's going to be important because it's time to start capturing some of that revenue back from the 50% of the people that are going to be allowed back in.
Is there a sector of an industry in particular that you like to focus on, or are you just general anything I can help your website or your
we're all a little bit all over the board. But really, I'm trying to work with either startups or small businesses, especially retailers and restaurants, because that's where my expertise is. There's a lot of things that you can take advantage of online that aren't super expensive, that won't eat into your profits and hopefully will make you a lot of money. And that's what I'm trying to do is, connect the people with the technologies in order to make it happen. Hopefully wrap it up in a nice pre-package.
And just a quick follow-up question since you brought it up. What is the barrier of entry cost-wise for most apps? Is it out of question for most people, or is it more accessible these days?
Sure. It depends on the functionality that you want. Now, typically, most people, I think, you're looking at least $30,000 to $40,000 for a full, branded app experience.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's not necessary. Sometimes, a website that looks and feels like an app is good enough. And really, it's a matter of figuring out, what are your needs, what's useful. And again, sometimes you can piggyback on existing technologies. Like if I was going to do at this point, there's no need to develop a restaurant ordering app from scratch. There are literally, a half dozen to a dozen really good solutions that you can just plug into what you have. So developing a full-blown app for a lot of people is not something that you even need to worry about. There are certainly use cases for it, but it is a daunting proposition to do, and it can be quite expensive. So you have to be ready for that.
Yeah. Well, Hal, we really appreciate you joining with us this Friday. I hope you stay happy and healthy, particularly as we start to reopen up. We're all looking forward to that. For those interested, it is jordanbowers.com. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And with that, everyone, stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes. Hal, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Fifteen seconds.
Cool.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Tyler Martinowicz, Film Commissioner for Hillsborough County. You're joining us again in another live stream Tampa Bay. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We're lucky enough to join this segment by company man, owner, and operator, Rob Teasler. How you doing, Rob?
Hey, Tyler, I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me on the show. It's kind of fun to be part of the community, and have 5 minutes to chit-chat a little bit about what's happening.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It feels like everyone's been sequestered for so long, I forget what people's faces look like. we just announced today that Tampa Bay is reopening, which is great. We had the similar news from St. Pete on Monday. More or less, the Bay Area is open for business. But we just did an impact study looking back over March and April at what our losses were, just as the city of Tampa. And what we found is we lost about 60 total productions. God knows how many jobs associated with those productions at a direct economic impact spend of almost $5 million just in the Tampa area. It has been a rough couple of months. How has Company Man weathered? Are you guys doing all right?
Yeah, I got to tell you, we're a little bit of a different animal than a lot of people that rely heavily on film production to make the bottom line and to be profitable and keep employees, staffed. We're blessed to be a little bit more of a content production studio. And, when I first started Company Man 8 years ago, it was my love for doing all things, not my love for a single thing. And who knew, right? Like if I had a crystal ball, it would have been like, wow, look at that, that's Corona proof. However, it's been it's been a blessing. We've maintained all of our staff. We've early adopters of work from home. Back early March, like the end of the first week of March, we blasted and got everybody wrapped up and got home, and we've really been busy, which has been fantastic. And we concentrate a lot on animation, design work, websites, digital marketing, and it's been kind of crazy. Production has been zero, obviously, with the we're slowly getting into it. We're more of the I'm more concerned about the comfort and security and the safety of my employees and the crew that I bring around something, right? Like I still sort of step back a little bit on this, like Tampa Bay's open. Okay, great. Yeah, we do need to pull permits, and we'll be calling because they're stacking up on our end on like, when can we do this and when can we do it safely? And it's really been an interesting challenge creatively in order to be able to figure out how do we get back into production and not have 30 people on set? Yeah. How do we get back into production, create the content that our clients are looking for, but also do it without a crew of 20, right? Like, how do we kind of start dialing in the creativity? How do we pull a permit to shoot downtown or to shoot on Riverwalk where we only have 3 people? And because people are still, it's not going to be, like, you're not going to be all up in someone's neck putting a lav in tomorrow, right? There's going to be masks and there's going to be, protocol and all those things as we slowly, kind of dial those things in and get back into the routine. It's all going to be fine. It's just that I'm opting for a slower take at it than I am run and gun, because we've got a financial security, and April was our best month this year. Yeah, that is absolutely insane.
It is, and I'm so glad to hear you guys are doing well. But a lot of the Bay Area companies were doing really well this year. I think I was just talking to Diamond View's owner Tim Moore a few segments back, and they had record-breaking months leading up to coronavirus. We were on really good footing for a long while. I think a lot of people were having a really good run, and this sort of hits, and you were either insulated from it a little bit better than others, depending on how it shook out. But now that we're reopened, I think you're right. There's this panicked rush that we need to get as much shot as possible. What I've been telling people is that you don't want to be the crew that gets everyone infected, because that's going to end it for everybody. You don't be that guy. So I think what you're talking about is prudent. It needs to be a slow reopening. And I hope not just my office, but other offices are taking that same approach. What are you doing to communicate to your own staff and clients that things are going to be a little different going forward, particularly with clients that might like to be on set? I don't want to pick on Publix, but they can have 20, 30 people on set sometimes just sitting around to watch what's going on. What are you doing to communicate the changes?
Well, we haven't put our first production back on the books. We have a couple smaller things that we're kind of, testing out and just trying to build our own protocol, right? Because at the end of the day, if we jump back into this too fast, right? Like, let's just say we're heavy production next Tuesday, and somebody on the crew somehow gets it, right? Everything is not gone, right? It's just, we're getting a little bit more, our stir crazy mixed with our need for financial security is smashing each other right now, right? So people are like, well, we can take a little bit of chance, but we gotta make a living, and everybody needs to appreciate having a job. Yeah, and I do too, and I'm a big proponent of being able to pay everybody, but I'm also a big proponent of working with my staff, right? So next Friday we're gonna evaluate coming back into the office, right? Right now no one's back in the office. Right now I'm here by myself, and it's just the way it's got to be, because I can't take the chance, nor do I want to take the chance with, hey, we just put we have 9 weeks of work from home, right? We're gonna throw everybody back into the office and cough on each other and jeopardize having to do it all for naught, right?
Yeah.
So we had custom made Company Man Studios face masks, right? And we have gloves. We've got hand sanitizer. We've got protocol for how do one person handling the grip equipment puts it back in the truck, comes back in, right? We know that there's a certain amount of hours before something can be touched, or when it's safe again, where it can't live on hard surfaces, right? So we're evaluating all of CDC guidelines. We're evaluating everything that you hear, and we're taking all that hearsay and jamming it into a big pile and looking at it going, what's the crew's comfort level?
Yeah.
Right? Are you okay with this? Because if I ask someone, all right, listen, we got this production tomorrow, I need you to do this, this, and this. If they don't feel comfortable with it, they don't have to do it, right? No one's going to lose their job. I'll hire a freelancer that there are a lot of them out there running and gunning, trying to make it happen, and say, look, you willing to do this? If somebody's willing to do it, we'll replace people for a while, whatever we need to do. And I say we'll replace their role on set, not their role within Company Man Studios, right? Because these are family, and I have to look at every one of these people and then the extension of all of their families, right? Like we bring one person in, boom, next thing you know, it's, we got 10 people. Well, 10 people is 40 that we're kind of really looking after, right?
Yep.
So to answer your question, which I'm not really good at short answers, is, day by day, maintaining a impeccable protocol for disinfecting, cleaning, wiping, making things happen, and then all over everybody's comfort level with what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. No, all great tips, and I agree with everything you said. Let's pull out the crystal ball here for a second. I've been talking with people about the comfortability of clients moving forward, what they're thinking of in the fall. Are they going to pull back? And what I'm hearing from a lot of people is that people are going to transition more towards animation, design, to hold them over as opposed to actual large-scale productions in the near future. Do you think that's a good place to be investing your time and resources if you're a small production company?
Well, not to build the rest of the competition in the community,
Fair,
but yeah, I think it's smart. I would probably, I think that if I had to look at some numbers, which I'm not a big number guy to dial in like Excel spreadsheets and stuff, but our requests for and current projects in the works, animation is outweighing everything else.
Yeah.
But we've always been an animation studio and known for our animation, so that's kind of a hard thing to sort of judge, but we've seen a huge uptick in it, and we've seen a lot of people like, could we do it this way? Can we do it this way? And again, it goes back to the creative process that we were talking about earlier. Depending on the client and the need of what we're trying to accomplish, maybe it is a mix with a simpler production and animation, right, to reinforce some things, right? So it's not necessarily all production. Maybe we throw a little bit of graphics animation in there and make things a little bit different and hybrid, So the creative process always wins.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And anecdotally, I don't have any hard numbers, but I think that's true just from what I've heard and experienced with clients. They are considering more heavily animated presences going forward. So with that, we got to close out the segment. These are so quick, Rob, but let's plug your business. Where can people learn more about Company Man?
Okay, yeah, you can find us on the web at companymanstudios.com and check us out. We got, Facebook and Instagram, whatever you want. Just go poke around and take a look at some of the stuff we do.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, guys. And for those watching, Company Man is a Tampa-based production company, studio. Throw them your business, guys. Let's always hire local, but now more than ever, we need to be looking about trying to keep our local businesses employed, especially as we're coming out of this malaise. Rob, appreciate your time, buddy. Have a great weekend. Always appreciate you. Thanks. And for those watching, we'll be back in a few minutes.
All right. Thanks for the hustle, man. Thanks for the hustle. Keep
Thanks,
doing
Rob.
this.
Appreciate it, bud.
It's easy to feel powerless when we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But if we pause for a moment and let our eyes adjust, we can discover beauty hiding within the darkness. We find new ways to bring hope, to celebrate, and to connect. We discover that the tools we already have can solve novel challenges. We reimagine how we serve our community and protect our most vulnerable. We learn new meanings to the phrase daily bread and face-to-face and hero. We find the simplest ways to brighten the darkest days. And we discover that the light we're looking for was never at the end of the tunnel. That light, in fact, comes from each of us. So for as long as it takes us to reach the other side, keep looking for the light, because it's always there, just 6 short feet away.
Yeah, I love it.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tyler Martinovich, Film Commissioner for Hillsborough County, and we're joined this segment for a bit of fun with Tampa's own Joe Davison. Joey Gigglepants, how are you, buddy?
What's up, man? Oh, hey. Sorry, just playing some Red Dead Redemption 2.
I guess that's better than Animal Crossing. We're already off the rails.
Oh, man, way better. Yeah.
So
I've already fashioned like 17 farms or whatever.
I don't understand people's fascination with that. But before we lose the entire audience by talking about Animal Crossing, Joe, you've got a little web series going on called, that was a cut to you, South of Central is the name, because Joe's not playing along.
Should I grab it like that?
Yeah,
like you should down, you're
catch
that,
it
I'll do that.
And put it out there. Yeah.
Like those stupid TikTok videos where it's like you cover the camera in the front.
Exactly like that. I am too old to have TikTok. Tell us a little bit about South of Central, because I've been following along and I've been enjoying it. I just got to see you in an Ewok costume is the only way to describe it, which was amazing.
So that's a cat costume. Yeah, so it's a fun show, man. A good time. Getting a lot to like it. I feel like I should look at you.
I know, but I'm looking off
monitor,
camera.
but
That's
not
why
the
I'm
camera.
here. I will stare right at you. We'll forgo the
Like,
second
I
camera.
want to be like, yeah. It says, I don't know. Is this better? I don't know. Push and zoom. Hi. No, yeah. So South of Central, dude, it's a fun comedy series launching. There's a little bit of cussing, there's a little bit of drug use and craziness, but it's no different than It's Always Sunny or Parks and Rec or that. Outside we don't do the interviews to the camera.
Yeah.
Parks and Rec style.
So let me ask you about this last episode. So this last episode, it's Chauncey, your character, who's a not aged well child star trying to reboot his career, and you are booked for a cat convention, and it's the saddest looking cat convention I've ever seen, and that's saying something. Where the heck did you shoot that? Were those all extras, or was that actually a cat convention that somehow you convinced them to let you film?
Yeah, it was a cat convention. And here's how this happened. We're doing the scene when I come in to meet my agent, Buford Cummings, played by Shelby McIntyre, who is, like, as you know, like a music director over at Ben's Model and Talent and stuff. Frank, what's up?
Sorry.
Hey, what's up?
Dude.
Hi.
Hi, dude.
How's it going? What's happening? Hello.
Keep talking. You're fine.
Anyways, so we're sitting there and we're like, man, we need something to talk about. And someone goes, kitten cod. We're like, what? I was like, what's that kitten cod? And they're like, we don't know, make it up. So we did. We improv that whole scene about me getting a job at a kitten con. And then Carol Lee, she was like, I'll find one. And she just scoured the internet until she found a kitten con. It just happened to be in Ravens, like 2 weeks. So we called them, said what we were doing. I went to House of Make Believe and got the kitten costume, and we went down there and shot all day. Yeah, crazy.
That is absolutely amazing. Were you a celebrity amongst all of the cat people? Did they appreciate what was going on?
Dude, they could care less than I could. I could have been running through that place on fire. They didn't give a shit. You know what when we got up to announce Chauncey to everyone, I'm Johnny was like, announce Chauncey babies. He was gonna yell that. We did one take where he's like, Chauncey, and they were like, shh, our cats are sensitive. So he had to be like, Chauncey babies. So that's all they cared about. And you couldn't look at the cats too much. That's what they really did. They didn't like you staring at the cats.
Reality is stranger than fiction, man. Believe me, you in a cat costume was the least strange thing happening in that entire scene.
Well, it gets worse. The show gets worse.
So for people who want to see this train wreck in real time, where can they actually find it? Where should they look?
Right on YouTube, South of Central Show. It's a channel right on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, type in South of Central Show, and it pops up. What's happening behind the scenes? You're nodding like a quarterback.
Oh, people are just telling me the time. I don't have a clock in front of me, nor do I have a monitor, so they have to tell me what's going on.
Wait, you don't have a monitor? Can you see me?
Well, I see you, but not what it looks like in the live stream, if that makes sense.
All right. Yeah, sure. Whatever. I don't know. Technology, man. I just put on a cat costume that's a little too small and run around real people. That's what I do.
Can I book you for birthday parties and bar mitzvahs?
Oh, man, I do all of it. I'll do anniversaries, divorces. Those are big hits. I'll do, bar mitzvahs, I don't know. Whatever.
I'm excited because we're both about the same size, and I'm definitely borrowing that cat costume from you for Halloween. So that's who I'm going as. Just Joe Davison as John C. Davies.
This is what I'm going for. This is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do for Tampa and St. Pete. And I was telling this to someone last night. First of all, I want the show to become a landmark show, and I want there to be a duck tour of all the places we shoot. I want people to be like, and this is where they shot Chauncey being shot in South of Central. They hit TV show on FX or Netflix or Hulu, wherever it is that it ends up, or followed by that guy died broke.
I hope that that happens, and if not, I think I'm gonna buy a duck boat anyway, and we'll just start the tours and not explain what's going on. I think that's the best way to do it.
Well, there's so many places that I want to shoot in the area, because I want to showcase the area. St. Pete, Tampa, it's very unique. It has its own flavor, and it could be in the area, and it could look like Miami, and turn around and it looks like Berkeley. So it's like, you know what I mean? So it's all over. You can see the city and.
Well, the good news is both Tampa and St. Pete are issuing permits again, so people can actually get back to business and filming.
I saw your cool. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about your little promo video.
Why? Because no one's wearing masks. It's been pointed out to me by about 400 people, so thanks.
No, I'm not in it.
Oh.
I don't give a shit you're not wearing that. I'm not in the video.
I'm sorry. we had to edit footage we had because obviously no one was filming, so that's what we had.
Can I just send you one for I'm
just waving. I think I might just use that clip right now. So we're coming to the end of the segment, Joe. Do me a favor. Pimp your show one more time. Where can they find it? It's not only South of Central, but it's also Red Gear's page as well, right?
Right, it's on the Red Gear Studios page as well on YouTube. It has its own channel, South of Central Show. You can find it through any of my handles on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, which is Joey Gigglepants. At Joey Gigglepants.
And do you have an agent right now, Joe? If someone wants to book you, where should they go?
You can go to redgearsstudios.com.
Okay. Directly to you?
Yeah. So just go right. Yeah. You can book me just for hanging out, if you need a friend, I'm good for that,
Well, you are a good friend, Joe, and I appreciate you for being on Friday. And for those tuning in,
I love you.
If you enjoyed this little conversation and the absurdity of it, you have to see Joe in a cat costume running through a cat convention. And no one cares. It's amazing. It's worth your time. It's South of Central. You can find it on YouTube or Red Gear Studios page on YouTube. There's also a Facebook page. So go do it. Watch, subscribe, like. I know Joe will appreciate it, and certainly it's important.
Please.
Yes, please. I did. You should too. So with that, everybody, let's say goodbye to Joe, and we will come back after a few minutes with another segment. Thanks, Joe. See you, bud. Happy Friday.
I'm like a Muppet.
Or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. I want you to get up right now. Get up, go to your windows, open them, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. Things have got to change.
How many stations does this go
You've
out
got to
live?
get mad.
67.
You've got to say,
I know it
I'm
goes to
as mad
Louisville
as
and
hell,
Atlanta.
I'm not going to take this anymore. Then we'll figure out what to do about the depression and the inflation and the oil crisis. But first, get up out of your chairs, open the window, stick your head out and yell, and say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Who are you talking to, Herb?
CGG, Atlanta.
Are they yelling in Atlanta, Herb?
Are they yelling in Atlanta, Ted? But first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
They're yelling in Baton Rouge.
Get up, get up, get up out of your chair.
Son of a bitch! We struck the mother load!
Stick your head out of the window, open it, then stick your head out and keep yelling and yell, I'm as mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore. Just get up from your chairs right now. Go to
Where
the
you
window.
going? I want to see if anybody's
Just go to
yelling.
the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell and keep yelling. I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm mad as hell! I'm not gonna take it anymore! I'm not gonna take it anymore! I'm mad as hell! I'm mad as hell!
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tyler Martinovich, Film Commissioner for Hillsborough County, and you've been watching Livestream Tampa Bay. We've had a great selection of guests, and we wanted to end this week with some good news. We're open for business. Florida is getting back on its feet, and to help celebrate that, we're going to close out today with a little bit of music, and I'd like to introduce our last guest today, Kimmy Tortuga. How are you, Kimmy?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for joining us. So you're going to play us out at the end here, but before we get there, let's talk a little bit about just the situation. So you're a local musician. What has it been like not being able to tour or do gigs for the last 2 months?
Honestly, I have to say, I think I am kind of an exception to the rule. Most artists, I think, that haven't incorporated, they're having a hard time getting capital from a lot of the federal aid that's out there, because they're kind of, and it's the lifestyle for most people. They just day by day kind of thing. But I have fortunately been able to acquire some of that federal capital and also grants from organizations locally that are that realize the predicament that most artists are in.
Yeah.
So I'm actually doing pretty well. So I'm extremely grateful for that.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, thank you. And aside from that, I miss performing. That's,
cheaper than therapy kind of thing.
Have you done any online performances through this? I know there's the online karaoke that's been streaming 24 hours a day, all day long on Facebook for the last 2 months. But have you done any concerts online?
I've just gone live, I want to say twice now on
Okay.
Facebook and Instagram. But it's funny because performing live, you know, like in front of people, I often feel, you know, invisible because you know how it is. Like you're singing and people just are walking by, not really paying attention. But when you go live on social media, it's like people are there to watch you.
Yeah.
That kind of intimidated me at first, and I was a little late to the game. But I'm doing it every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We're going to let you introduce your song here in a second. But where can people learn more about you online? Where should they follow you on social media?
Facebook and Instagram. Those are the two that I use primarily. So just my name, Kimmy Tortuga.
All right. So tell us a little bit about the song you're about to play for us.
Okay. Well, the one song that I want to play, it actually doesn't really have a title. I wrote it during quarantine.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's about kind of being lost, stuck in your feelings, and not really knowing which way to go. So I'm calling it Wilderness. There's some nature parallels, you know, in there that kind of talk about how the struggle brings the strength in a way. So.
Well, that's awesome. Kimmy Tortuga, take it away.
All right. Lost in life, how did I end up? Chose you wrong and broken. Can I fall into such a forest? And come out higher than my love. Though it's dark and lonely, 'cause I can't bury him. All the long shines like the sun. The war is already won. But you light the way to happiness and grace, like the stars beyond, the ones that got your grace. Held it clear and it better than that. And you stay exposed to that. Breathe
Kimmy, that was fantastic.
I hope you guys were able to hear me okay.
No, it actually came through absolutely clear. You had the entire studio rocking, so we were all enjoying that. So really appreciate
You tell,
that.
like, this whole social media performance thing, like, literally it makes me sweat. Like,
Yeah, we couldn't tell. You were fantastic. So we're getting back to normal. Florida's reopening here. Where are you normally touring? Where can people see you normally, and hopefully soon?
Already, it's been so long. I'm usually just around the Tampa Bay area for right now. So I play Dunedin. I'll play downtown St. Pete. I play in Tampa where I live. I love Tampa so much. I used to hate it. Like growing up, I was like, man, this place is trash. But I think when you have money and you're in Tampa, it rocks.
Yeah,
So,
no, I agree with that. Where do you get inspiration for these songs? I mean, that was beautiful, and you wrote that over quarantine. So, I mean, where are you drawing the inspiration from?
good question. That one in particular was I actually decided to write songs about, my feelings. Whereas I used to just, write songs about lessons learned and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, now, I'm writing songs, like heartbreak songs. That one is technically a heartbreak song. Some jerk was not very nice to me, and then quarantine, like immediately. I'm like, I can't even go out and drink and like solve my problems like usual.
Well, if there was ever a good way to get revenge, it's writing a song about somebody. So Well, we got to close out the segment here. So one more time, where can people find you? It's Kimmy Tortuga on Facebook and Instagram, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll let you set up your last song here. What are we about to hear?
Okay. Let me see. Why don't we do? I have a mad scientist board up here of the album that I'm doing. All right, I'm gonna do My Mistake. Yeah, you called me by surprise. Timing, promising me eyes. And I didn't see it coming. You got the knowing this guy. I lie here in the shade to hide the parts I'm fully made. Yeah, and me as the day grows longer, I find myself empty away. Yeah. There's nothing but here to see. I'm simply being fooled by it. Yeah, how many times did I say, to nobody has been there. And tell me what you like. When you're only my pride. You are everything I wanted, and who I seek and confide. There's nothing but here to see. I'm simply been fooled by me. Yeah. How many times will it take? Yeah. To
I've simply been fooled by me. Yeah, how many times did it take?